I fucking love Star Wars. Well, most of the time anyways. Star Wars is one of those weird franchises where you just have a love-hate relationship with it, and it's really hard to tell whether it's good or not. But I think the Star Wars has some of the best concepts in fiction and has been very influential on media. Though, whether movies are actually good is a very mixed bag. There are some universal truths behind Star Wars, however. Sequel trilogy, bad. Prequel trilogy's kinda okay. Original trilogy? Wait, what were everyone's takes on this again? Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen anyone probably talk about the original trilogy, so I thought I'd take a crack at it in honor of George Lucas' birthday. It's all like party, they rhyme. From what I can remember, the original trilogy was the start of me loving this franchise. I think that Star Wars has been fantastic so far. It's definitely seen in the right direction. You have such great Star Wars media in recent years. Clone Wars, Rogue One, Rebel, Mandalorian, Book of Boba, The Bad Batch, Jedi Fallen Order, all that jazz. But now, it's time to go back to the beginning. In a galaxy far, far away. Now, episode 4 is definitely the one I've heard about the least out of the original trilogy. Episode 5 is leaning more towards great, and 6 is leaning more towards bad, but A New Hope is just an absolute limbo of media discussion. And honestly, I didn't expect to like this movie as much as I did. There's not too many bad things I can instantly point out with it. I love the main cast, I love the pacing, and it's overall just a fun time. Truth be told, the main cast has never felt so grounded in a Star Wars movie than this one. Each individual character feels so real and genuine, and the sci-fi concept of this movie really helps the character growth. Luke wants to find a sense of belonging in the galaxy because of all the Space War stuff, and wants to go out and explore, and join the rebellion to fighting the Empire. As crazy as this concept sounds, his growth and struggles feel like any normal person would want in this situation. Leia is a princess, but she isn't a damsel in distress and has more direct and authoritative personality to her. She doesn't take shit from anyone, and she is a complete badass throughout most of the trilogy. And Han. Motherfucking Han. Han is my favorite in the trilogy because of how he is in the first 2 episodes. He is the most real you can get when it comes to characters. I love his struggle to get along and becoming selfless because all he's known is to be selfish and survive for the sake of himself.
But they're gonna kill her!
Better her than me.
And him coming back at the end to help Luke makes perfect sense because he's given various situations as to why his original morality doesn't work and is put into question before given the opportunity to choose a new path. Speaking of characters, Vader and the Empire is a very competent threat in this movie. Vader being a complete fucking lunatic. I forgot a lot of the things he does in this movie, from choking a rebel with his bare hands or literally drugging Leia to reveal the Death Star plans. But it's not just Vader. Tarkin is very cold and calculated, seen as Vader's right-hand man. You know he is the real deal when he tells Vader to stop his shit or follow his plan, and he actually listens. The Empire has given a lot of time to be seen as a competent threat, and a lot of that has to do with the pacing of the movie. It keeps switching back and forth from learning and discovering more about our main protagonist and the world we live in, and then switching to establishing making the Empire more menacing before they come together and fight in the final act. It's a perfect pacing for an introduction movie, and I adore it. Now here comes the bad stuff. When I say it's an introduction movie, it's both a good and bad thing. Because while it is perfect for setting up the rest of the franchise, overall the story is pretty bare-boned. There's nothing too complex or any core emotional themes in the movie. It's essentially going from point A to point B. And overall, I kinda just want some of the action to be over so we can focus more on the characters because they were the best part about the movie. When telling extremely basic stories, you have to be able to back that up with pretty interesting character dynamics. I do say they handle that balance pretty well because you have a great fucking cast in the movie. But even still, the story is pretty barren and doesn't have much to offer. Overall, 8 out of 10. Very solid, just a pretty underwhelming story. Also, yes, I know I put a 7 out of 10 in my Twitter and then also in my script, but then I decided to change it to an 8 out of 10 last second. Don't leave me alone. Okay, so this is apparently the one movie everybody can agree on that this is the best mainline Star Wars movie to exist. And I gotta say, they are right. Man, I really wanted to be indifferent find this movie overrated, but I just couldn't. This movie improves on the original in every aspect. It has a much stronger emotional core and theme, the less important characters are well more defined, and this movie's story is definitely a lot more complex and has a lot more thought to it. I think what this movie does best is challenge Luke's ability to become a Jedi. His brashness and naivete is a lot more defined in this movie than in the last movie. Luke throughout all of his training is showing so much conflict between what Yoda wants from him and what he wants to do.
Your weapons. You will not need them.
And his internal conflicts are extremely interesting, and it's because these struggles carry over to the next movie as well. It also establishes Luke's weakness and imperfection as the main protagonist, which I really love. Which, honestly, seeing as how people look at The Last Jedi, I feel like a lot of people forget this. The mystery behind Luke turning over is done so goddamn well. Sure, better than that other main protagonist. It's safe to say that all the stuff with Luke and Vader from this and the next episode are the best part because they bring out the best parts of Star Wars. The conflict between the good and the bad. What really is the right or wrong thing to do. This has been a consistent thing in Star Wars' future, and this is the start of that. This can also be said when we look at Lando, and he gives up Han for Leia for the sake of his mining company. On one hand, it was pretty fucked up for Lando to do this, but Vader obviously twisted the deal Lando had planned. Then when you look at it from Lando's perspective, he was doing the only thing he could for his life for his people and his company. Questioning moral compasses in good and evil is what the franchise is the best at, and this movie is a spark that lighted the rest of the franchise in that aspect. Another thing this movie is great at is setting up the I am your father scene. Now, I don't need to tell y'all how great the scene is. It's done masterfully. But the setup for this movie is wonderful. I love the scene in the cave where we see that Luke's face is in Vader's helmet. Now, at least my interpretation of this is that from Luke's perspective, this is his fear of turning over to the dark side. But for the audience, this is foreshadowing of Vader being Luke's father because they are both Skywalkers. I also love how this foreshadows from Vader's perspective when the Emperor tells him,
I have no doubt this boy is the offspring of Anakin Skywalker.
How is that possible?
That's your feeling. You will know it to be true.
and then that same quote is called back from Vader himself, because he knows by now that Luke is his son, so he wants Luke to accept the same truth he has to. Everything about the main plot is done so well and is way more thought out than A New Hope. And like I've already said about so far, the characters are so great in this. The relationships are stronger, the dynamics are more entertaining to see because this cast is obviously around each other longer in universe. And yes, Han is still my favorite in this movie because of his relationship with Leia. The relationship is pretty great and has a lot of depth behind it. If I had to say one wrong thing with this movie, it's more so the fact that Vader showed up before Han. Like, how? Boba was following right behind Han the whole time. How did Vader get there and talk to Lando without Han noticing them? But other than that, everything is done so beautifully and much entertaining to see in A New Hope. The Empire making a full frontal assault was intense and impactful. All the time with Yoda and Dagobah was great and well thought out, and everything on Cloud City was done perfectly. From Han being frozen in carbonite to the awe-inspiring emotional duel between Luke and Vader. Overall, this movie is easily a 9 out of 10. The best Star Wars movie by far. But as I say, you either die a hero, or you live long enough to become a shit show. I knew I was in for a bad time when in the first 5 minutes, I already was noticing some problems, besides it being more boring than episode 5. C-3PO is to be the weirdest thing in this movie, because it's mentioned several times that he speaks over 6 billion forms of communications, but you get these scenes where he doesn't understand Jabba's language, and it's just really weird, even though he later translates for Jabba anyways. Moving on, Luke's plan is kinda convoluted and stupid. He kinda expected to be captured along with everyone else so he can grab his lightsaber from R2, but it's so weird because his plan hinges on everything that happens to go exactly how it went. Yes, including Leia being turned Jabba's slave, Jabba refusing initial deal to keep the droids anyways, and him later coming to the palace himself and preparing to portray Jabba, where everyone was exactly where they were when they weren't going to get executed. Why not just go there yourself to begin with and start wheeling away if you knew you were going to get captured anyways? Actually, isn't this plan a little ridiculous because this caused Han to be in more danger instead of going there on the offensive at the beginning and keeping out safe and frozen in carbonite until Jabba was killed? What benefit did you gain from waiting until you were separated from Jabba, except Leia to do it and not kill him yourself? Okay, I think I'm done. Use your fucking lightsaber! After that, Luke goes back to see Yoda after a long time of self-training, and I personally really love that he thinks that he's good in Vader despite Yoda and Obi-Wan telling him otherwise. Luke has become so much wiser and more complete than we saw in episode 5. He even points out to Vader in the final act that he could have destroyed Luke at any time during the Fire and Bespin, but chose not to, further proving his point that Vader could change. We get to see him interact once again, and Luke tries to turn Vader before seeing the Emperor, but the sad truth is that Vader believes he's beyond saving, because he's already the Emperor's puppet.
It is too late. for me, son.
That line hits so hard, and you can really feel for Vader's conflict start to come out more and more. Even with this one long shot of Vader just looking out alone, thinking about what Luke has told him. It's made abundantly clear after episode 5 that Vader is conflicted, but he's locked behind the Emperor's influence as more of a victim than anything. And that's really cool to see. But with that out of the way, yeah, the rest of the movie isn't great. I feel like the characters are a lot less interesting and just kind of there for the ride for us this movie. And yes, as everybody has always said, the Ewoks suck. They are extremely annoying and make the Empire look like a fucking joke. The most menacing monarchy in the galaxy, ladies and gentlemen. I get that the main cast needed a group to take down the Empire, but the Ewoks are so dumb and there's nothing interesting about them. Imagine if the Ewoks were told that Han and Leia knew about the Empire, and we get this one scene where the Ewoks use drawings about how the Empire tore down the trees and hurt the environment to build a shield generator, express their anger to the Empire without using words. That would have been given the Ewoks much more depth behind their race and motivations. But no, they wanted to use these guys to fuck around and do nothing for a third of the movie. I love all stuff with Luke and Vader, don't get me wrong, but the Ewoks just take way too much time out of the movie, and they are just the worst. And obviously the space battle and the destruction of Death Star was cool and intense. I was legitimately shocked when Death Star was completely operational and just mowing down their forces, only for Han to finally bring down the shield and destroy Death Star in a much more fun way than the first Death Star, don't at me. Overall, there are a lot of individual parts of the movie that I love more than episode 5, but you have to endure a lot of stupid shit, and the movie overall is just kinda messy. 6 out of 10. It's fine, but there's just too much stuff that's wrong with it. And that was the original trilogy. I have to say, a lot better than what I anticipated going in, but man, episode 6 fucking sucked. But I think rewatching this definitely reminded me how much I love the franchise. Yes, 80% of Star Wars isn't the greatest, but I'd be lying if I didn't want this franchise to succeed and continue on. And this might even be true, seeing as how Kenobi and Ahsoka are already being perceived as fan favorites, and they're not even out yet. Star Wars is a fantastic franchise with some of the greatest concepts I've seen from fiction, and this trilogy has reminded me of that, and I hope that one day, it reminds you too. Thank you all so much for watching. I sincerely hope that you guys enjoyed, because going back to this trilogy has brought back a lot of love I have for this franchise. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the little notification bell so you get notified when future content releases. It helps out the channel a lot, it's free, and you can always unsubscribe later. I'm your favorite Cowboy, signing off. What? Clone Wars, you